So hello everyone and welcome to our HEC webinar live session. So thank you for being connected with us today and to watch our presentation on influencer marketing presented by our Professor Kristine de Valck. So my name is Suzanne Mathern and I'm a program advisor for the MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And we are speaking live from our Josas campus, HEC campus. So good afternoon, Kristine. So how are you today?
I'm excellent. I'm here because it is strikes in France, so I made it to campus today.
Yes, well, thank you for making it despite the kilometers of traffic jams in the Paris suburbs. It was
and
absolutely
the rain
crazy. And the rain. It's almost the end of the world here in France.
It was a deluge.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so Kristine is our professor for our Master in Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the course called Marketing Through Social Media. So she'll be talking about it later on during her presentation. And this course is part of the first part of our master, which is the fundamental courses. So first of all, I'll give you a quick summary about different topics we'll be covering. I will give you a few facts and figures about our business school, HEC, and the great news that we got this morning. And of course, a few points about our Master in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And then Kristine is going to start her presentation. And during our presentations, you will be able to ask questions, and we really count on you to ask us as many questions as you wish, and we'll be making a few breaks to answer them. And after Kristine's presentation, so I will conclude in a few words on how you can apply for our master, and that you are still maybe possibly being able to join our cohort, which is starting soon in December. And I will tell you also how you can get a taste for free of our masters. So please stay connected till the end. Okay. So a few facts and figures about our business school, HEC Paris, which was founded in 1881. And today is a great day because the Financial Times has awarded us and ranked us the first business school in Europe. So I think we can congratulate each other. Yeah, congratulations. So that's a super day to do a webinar. And we're really proud. So HEC is also known as being top 32 for graduating CEOs of Fortune 500. We offer more than 45 diplomas and joint degrees. And also for all the entrepreneurs and future entrepreneurs who are watching us today, we are known as the first entrepreneurship school in France, with many famous startups which have been launched by our HEC alumni. And HEC has also a very close partnership with Station F, which you may know is the world's largest incubator. So HEC is also a very powerful network. More than 60,000 alumni. We have been ranked #1 of the most powerful business school alumni network by The Economist in 2019, and our alumni network organizes more than 10,000 events all around the planet. So now a few words about our MSc in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So first of all, it is 100% online and in English, and it's hosted by our partner Coursera. So you can work from home. You can work in a plane, in an airport, when you're commuting. You do not need to come to our campus. There's absolutely no obligation. Of course, you're most welcome to come and visit us, but there's absolutely no obligation to come here. So it saves you time, it saves you money, and you have the same quality of courses. The professors of our on-campus courses are the same as the professors for our online Master in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So our master is 18 months. We have cohorts every 6 months, 20 courses in the total. The first part are the fundamental courses. So Kristine's course is part of that. And those fundamental courses are pre-recorded courses that you can upload. And as I was telling you, you can work from everywhere else. So Kristine, now things are a bit changing. Are all the fundamental courses only pre-recorded courses, or is this something that's going to be changing soon?
Indeed, so for cohort 4, which is running now, we decided to make some changes and to include a bit more live element already in these first 6 months of fundamental courses. So I will be meeting with my cohort 4 2 times during the 4 weeks that they actually take my course. So I will be actually hosting a live webinar with them just when I'm finished with you.
Exactly, yeah. So that's wonderful. There is more and more interaction between our students and the professors with our online program. Many people think, well, an online program, I'm all alone working. No, not at all. First of all, the 6 months of fundamental courses, yes, it's individual work, but as Kristine just said, there is a lot of interaction, and there is also a lot of interaction between the students.
Absolutely, because if you would take my course, but it is for all the courses, so we have videos, but that is to some extent actually only a little part of the course. After that, there is discussion forums, and these courses are built such that the discussion forums play an important role. If you would take my course, which is marketing through social media, you can imagine that this topic is quite dynamic, right? And when I was recording this course, and that has been now 2 years ago, I imagined I built it such that the discussion forum allows the participants to bring in today's reality around social media, giving them an opportunity to bring in examples that play today in their countries, in their reality. And we see that happening. There's a whole lot of interaction between the participants online that discuss the topics that I prepared for them to discuss online, and that form absolutely a very valuable complement to the readings and the videos that we have also prepared.
Yes, very true, Kristine. And what we are really discovering with great joy in with the different cohorts of our masters is there's a real notion of community between our students. There's a lot of pure learning too. They learn, because many of them are entrepreneurs or innovative people. So they learn a lot from each other. They interact a lot. They collaborate. We even had 2 students who got to know each other during the courses, and they launched a startup during the courses. So many meet, of course, because they're living in the same country or when they're traveling. So there is a lot of life, and we have even professors who are saying there's maybe more life in your cohorts than in some courses on campus where it's quite static. So we were talking about those first 6 months of fundamental courses, and then when it gets crunchy is the second part, the 12 months of project-based courses, where you work on an entrepreneurial venture in a team. So we have intakes every 6 months, and the next intake is on December 16th, which still leaves you time to finalize your application. We are still accepting candidates, so well, keep it up. And the following, of course, intake will be in June 2020 if you really find that December is too short. Okay, so I was talking about the second part of the program. All the courses for the second part are given live, and you work on an entrepreneurial venture, maybe your entrepreneurial venture that you have submitted to the cohort, or one of your teammates' entrepreneurial ventures. So you work on a real case, an actual case, and you work during those 12 months, guided by entrepreneurs, by the professors, by coaches, and at the end of those 12 courses, those 10 courses, those 12 months, you are evaluated by potential investors, business angels, which could help you launch your project. So that's it. And as you can imagine, when it's teamwork, you can be working with people all around the planet, and the community, the discussions, the exchanges are extremely intense. And what happens is, this, as I was saying, real sense of community. When it's graduation day, almost all our students are here because they're so happy to finally meet in life. So that's about it for the masters right now. So now I will please ask all our viewers to please jump on their mouse, jump on their keyboard, and answer this little poll that we are sending to you. We want to know why you're here. Are you just a curious person? Do you have a general interest in innovation and entrepreneurship? Maybe you want to launch a business. Maybe you want to scale up an existing company, or maybe you're considering to apply for our masters. So please, please answer. I think 40% only of you have answered, but maybe you can be a bit more if you wait a few seconds. We're still waiting for your answers. Okay, 60% of our viewers have answered. They're still answering. We're going to give them some time. Yeah. Well, some do want to scale up their company. Okay, well, I think that's about it. Well, thank you for participating. So, I think now, Kristine, it's your turn to talk.
Okay, it's my turn to talk. So Good afternoon once more. Thank you, Suzanne, for hosting me today. And it's a real pleasure to be with you here this afternoon and to give you an opportunity to tell you a bit about my course and then in particular about the topic of influencer marketing. So my course is really about marketing through social media. And to give you a couple of background information about me, I'm Kristine. I'm from the Netherlands, and I did my dissertation which I started in 1999. So that was really the moment that the internet started to be big. I was reading a lot about that. And I wanted to do a dissertation on that particular topic, understanding the internet. So I have been continually studying the internet and consumer interaction on the internet since 1999. So at the beginning, this was discussion boards, forums, then it became blogs, then we talked about social networks, now we're doing research on Instagram. So let's say the platforms that I study have changed, but what I'm always still very interested in is how are consumers influenced in their decision making through social media. And this course is really the culmination of everything that I've learned about this over these past what is it, 20 years? So I also have a couple of questions for you before we start. So please start, I'm looking at my team, start a poll and answer the question. It's the poll. It's the poll, where are we? No, we lose
Okay,
the poll.
well, the poll has disappeared.
Questions there. Is it not questions? No, it's
no,
not
well,
questions.
I think, well, you can just maybe say what are the different points of the poll.
Exactly. Well, okay. It doesn't matter, you know, this is what happens online, even when you're with 3 people. So I wanted to know indeed a little bit how was the distribution among the audience today and what you already know about, perfect, yeah, we're launching it now, I guess,
yes,
right?
We got it.
Yes,
yeah,
again, perfect, thank you so much, yes.
The poll was on strike.
Maybe. The poll was on strike, indeed, the poll was on strike. So please take a moment to answer this question for me. Because it gives me a little bit of an idea of where you stand today in social media, because I know over these old years that I've been researching it, but also teaching it, is that the distribution of social media savvy, let's say, can be quite heterogeneous. And indeed, I actually see the same happening here. Let me see, so we'll give it a couple of more seconds for you to answer. You're very active because we have about 80% of you who have already answered. And typically we don't reach that high of a degree. But the distribution, I don't think they can see it, right? So no, I see the distribution, they cannot. So I will tell you. So we have the highest percentage of people that say I'm actually an avid user of different social media accounts. So good for you. And then the second highest say is I use social media occasionally, but there's also quite a lot of you that actually are social media managers. So here you see that if you are using social media as a consumer, and that is typically also what I say to my students, as you can imagine, the students here on our master or MBA programs on the HSC campus are pretty, or believe they're pretty social media savvy. In my course, obviously, we take the perspective of the business or you as a marketer. So indeed, if you are working as a social media manager, you do have that additional other glasses, and that is what we highlight in this particular course. Okay, so I have another poll for you to give me a sense of how important you believe social media are for your business. So please, again, take a minute to answer, because here too businesses are quite heterogeneous in how they relate to social media. So there is the very expert users, let's say, where social media have been acknowledged as a very important value driver. There's also a lot of companies who do it, you know, because everybody's doing it, but they are not absolutely sure how to measure or prove that there is any return on investment. Then there's also the companies that are much more particular, so they use some selected platforms where they have some good results. And then there's also businesses that are just trying it out, and of course some of you may also just not know. So if I look here, then indeed, as I would expect, to be honest, and don't worry, most of you do answer this second question, like we use it a lot, but there's no proven ROI. And the other one is maybe the second best is a very important value driver, cannot do without it. But actually, I see that I have pretty much entered in all these categories, and that is the kind of heterogeneity that I get typically in my courses. Now, I do want to point out that I believe, obviously, as the social media marketing professor, that social media can be a very important value driver for most businesses. I wouldn't say for all businesses, but for most businesses. And if you want to be convinced here, I put a number of market research findings that speak to that. So we see, and the number varies a bit depending on which kind of resource you take, but many consumers' decisions in all parts in the world are influenced by social media posts. That is one thing. You see also that indeed many of us turn to social media and the internet to browse for information, product information, before we make purchase decisions. Millennials in particular are very likely to use digital channels to learn about products. Well, I don't want to go over all of those, but it kind of gives you an overview that social media do have a proven impact on the marketplace, and the ones that are social media managers will attest to that. So in my course, the question that I'm really answering is this: how can you create value and by using social media? And when I say value, I really mean value for the consumer or the customer, for the ones who's using these social media, and also for the company, for this dual point. And what is different about social media compared to traditional media? Before, marketers were really trying to use media to attract attention to their products and to make sure that people were kind of pushed through a purchase funnel where they would be going from considering many multiple options to nailing them down to choose your particular product, your particular brand. With the idea then that today this purchase funnel has really changed due to social media. Today, we really talk no longer about a purchase funnel that goes from many brands to fewer brands, and then making people to buy it. We recognize now that the consumer decision process around buying products has expanded in multiple ways. So on the one hand, indeed, consumers still need to be able to consider, be aware of your product before they can imagine buying it. And then you have this phase of evaluation where they will go out, as we just saw, proven by a number of these statistics, where they go out on the internet and do their information search, do comparison, read blogs, posts, marketer-generated information to evaluate what is the best option for them. And then they buy. Before, the marketers' interactions with consumers kind of stopped there, right? And now, or since social media, we realize that marketers have a big role to play in supporting consumers in everything that happens after they bought the product, because they go home and they enjoy the product, which is the moment when they will return back to the internet to write a review and rating or give you feedback, where they will bond together, they will advocate for you, and they bond together in these communities, which was, for example, the topic of my dissertation, which I started back in 1999. So we see that there is these, what has changed for marketers today due to the rise of social media is that they manage a much larger aspect of that consumer decision journey. And as a result of that, my whole course is built around that consumer decision journey and saying how in each of these stages can a marketer, can a business use social media to offer value. So before, indeed, marketers focused on creating awareness and influence the consumers as point of choice. Today, we also need them to support during pre- and post-purchase evaluation. Give them a reason to bond with the company and to facilitate interaction with other consumers. And that is really what social media can do for you. So my course is built around a social media strategy grid that I designed as such, where I say there is two big reasons why we would go on social media. It is on the one hand to attract customers. That would be the start of that consumer decision process, right? Creating awareness and getting consumers to be interested in your product. And then there is this second part. And once people have bought your product, have started a relationship with you, you want to retain these customers, and you use social media for all these things. In social media too, we have let's say the initiative of interaction may lie with the consumers and it may lie with the company. So if you put these two axes, let's say, together, we get four big strategies that you could embrace when you use social media as a business. So you can use social media to communicate, and that is typically what most companies do, and they don't necessarily go very much beyond that, because my conviction is that a lot of companies have not truly understood how social media are different from traditional media. So they use it as a channel to push information, so they communicate. You should do that. And in my course, we'll talk about how you should do that well, so that it offers value for the consumer. Then there is the whole element of consumers who do the talking for you. So they engage in word of mouth, and this is where we have influencer marketing. We will talk a little bit more about that now for the rest of the webinar. So that is communicate and share. Then, of course, you can also use social media to provide care, after sales care, address consumers who have issues using your product. So we have that element. Care could also include intelligence, business intelligence, so listening into what consumers say online to improve your product, to help consumers make the best use out of your products and brands. And then this last element is really the last part in that consumer decision journey, where what you try to do on the internet these days and using social media is to create a bond with your customers and to create a bond of your customers together. So community marketing. So we have communicate, share, care, and commune. And with these four strategies, you are able to provide value to your customers all along the customer decision journey. Alors, so then my course, to give you a little bit of insight, it runs over 4 weeks, 4 modules, whereas in the first module we really talk then about what are these new rules of marketing, and I really insist on that because I observe every day a wrong use of social media, and I think after 20 years of being an expert I can say that. I think many marketers don't get it or don't want to get it. There's also a lot of companies that get money out of not doing it in the right way. So what is different and why is it different? We really spend time on that. In the second module, we then really attack social media, because one social media is not the same as the other social media. So we need to understand how all these different platforms differ from one another. And let's say a metaphor that you can use is if you go out and you go have a beer in a bar, every bar has its own culture, and the types of beers that you get there and the way you interact with people in the bar will be different depending on the beer, the bar. Sorry, maybe I should have a wine. That would have been. I'm from the Netherlands, so I say beer, but maybe I should have used wine as a better example. But you mean what I'm trying to say is that social media are different from one another. We need to spend time on social media literacy. And then following that in module 2, we talk about this first part of the marketing media grid, right? How do businesses communicate on social media? And a more typical term that we use today is content marketing, okay? So then in module 3, we move to consumers doing the talking for you, which is word of mouth marketing and influencer marketing. And I've done for the last 10 years, I really do my research on that. I love that topic. And the module 3 is not big enough for me to talk about all of that. So we will talk a bit about that more today. And then my module 3 really talks about customer care, intelligence, and community marketing, as well as we address in this module 4 also measurement on social media, which is important to answer all these questions of these people that are today using social media but do not really know how to prove that there is an ROI. Okay, so with that, I would like to move and delve into this topic of influencer marketing, which for me falls in my social media grid around sharing and getting other people to share for you. If you want another image, let's say, that highlights what influencer marketing means, you have probably all heard about today that marketers are engaging into paid media, which is, for example, their traditional ads in radio, TV, what you would have outdoor. You have your owned media, so this could be your own store, for example. It could also be your own Facebook page, you see. Then you have the earned media. That is what you get with social media. And influencer marketing typically is here, right? Influencer marketing is, well, I don't want to say new because everybody says it's new. It's not new because it exists since 10 years, okay? I do research on this since 10 years. But it has grown a lot. And this is where we see that there is a merging of earned media and, but earned media that is paid, right? So we have sponsored influencers. So as I just mentioned, influencer marketing is huge these days, and the estimation is that it is, what is it, the 2.35 billion is supposed to reach the influencer market in the United States on Instagram only. So marketers are putting their money into this quite significantly. Now, let's go and understand what we really mean with it. So this idea of influence in the marketplace is not new at all. It was actually introduced in the 50s by two sociologists, Katz and Lazarsfeld, that published a book that was called Personal Influence. And at that point in time, they made already now I don't know what the English word is, but in French we would say the constat. They observed, they made the observation that in the marketplace, mass media messages that at the time were mostly spread by the radio, the newspapers, a bit already also by the TV, would reach the larger market through influencers, through particular people in the marketplace. And since the 1950s, marketers are trying to get their head around this idea of influence, because it's attractive for marketers, right? To believe if you pick the right people, I have an influence on the market. So an influencer is supposed to be an individual who has power to influence the purchase decisions because of their authority, knowledge, position, or relationship with his audience. Now, I like this one too, because influencer, there's a lot of people these days that claim that they're an influencer. So a word that Instagram users use to describe themselves to make them feel famous, and more important, when no one really knows who they are or care. Usually it's the type of people that call themselves foodies and they post pictures of the avocado and their toast because they can't really do anything else interesting. Usually they also post their last holiday asking someone to please take me back, So I think it is a fair and it's a funny a joke, let's say. The idea of influencers is hyped, as back in 1999, the concept of virtual community was completely hyped. So let's go to research, and that is what I do, right? And I help you understand how influence really works. And then we are maybe able to make better decisions as a company when we decide to engage in influencer marketing. So maybe some of you have read the book by Malcolm Gladwell, who published The Tipping Point already, I think also about 10 years ago. And in this book, he popularizes insights from academic research in this particular domain. So he says for information to catch on, let's say, for information or trends to become really visible and having a lot of people adopting it, you need three different types of people. So we need, on the one hand, connectors, who are people who know a lot of different people. And this goes back to a theory that was introduced by Granovetter in '73, who talked about the strength of weak ties. So here you see a number of dots that are grouped together. So this is an in crowd. It is people, if we would think here, for example, on the HEC campus, our students would form an in crowd, or even we could say on the HEC campus, we have our MBA students that are together in one building, and they're typically together in the same dormitories. And then we have the master students who are in a different building and then have also live together in other areas on the campus. Now, those groups are cliques. So information is easily spread among these people in this group. However, we start to say that influence happens in the marketplace if information spreads from one group to the other group. So what you need is these people. So there is these little dots that are connected, that have connections to these other groups. And that we call that weak ties. So it is not people that are belonging of the same cliques, but they know each other. And that is when you see that information spread. So if you want to have influence in the marketplace, you need people who connect, not just who know a lot of people, but who know a lot of different type of people belonging to these different cliques. Then you start to see influence with impact, right? With space. Now, that's only one part of the equation. The second type of person, as indicated by Malcolm Gladwell, that you need in order to have influence is what he called maven. It's a Yiddish word, which means he who has, or she who has accumulated a lot of knowledge. And in this particular case, we talk about someone who has accumulated a lot of marketplace knowledge. It's these kinds of people, and I'm sure maybe you are one of those, or you know some of those, who actually like to know what is going on in the marketplace, and they actually read. Well, they go online and they look at information, and they're just savvy, for example, in a particular category. And then he also said, Malcolm Gladwell, there's a third person that you need, which is salesmen, who have this kind of particular subtle persuasion power that make the people listen to them. Now, so this is what we know from academic research. Influencers could be any of these three types of people. Now, the point is, if we look at the typical categorization that we see today when we think about influencer marketing, today we talk about micro or micro, macro, and mega influencers. And we do that depending on their number of followers. So what is the problem with this categorization? And feel free to write down your answer in the chat box. So I'll see what you think about that. And then actually at the same time, I see a question there, I can answer it. So one of the questions is, are you going to send us the presentation? No, we will not share the presentation with you, but the webinar is recorded and the video will be available to watch again on YouTube, right? There's also someone that asks whether this particular course is a good match with their background information. For these kind of very personal questions, we propose that you be in touch with Suzanne or someone else from the
from the program. At the end of the presentation, we'll be giving your coordinates. And well, so the person was asking, saying, well, I have a bachelor's degree in law and I'm working in aviation industry. Our master is not specialized to a certain domain.
No.
Or industry.
Or
industry. The common point of all our participants are the fact that they want to become entrepreneurs, or they are entrepreneurs, or they want to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, or be more innovative. So our students come from all kinds of domains, and well, one of the criteria is to hold a bachelor degree, but then we can have people working in healthcare and education, IT industry, and aeronautics, and law. Also, we have the students with law degrees coming into our master. So the profiles are really various. So we're still waiting for your answers for our questions.
It's no problem, you know. I'm used to teaching in a class where students are not
always. Did you understand that this is a question and we're waiting for our viewers' answers? So please, if you could give us a few answers, we would be most grateful. Well, so shall we wait?
No, we will continue because
okay, Kristine.
it's no problem. So for me, when I would think about this categorization, and if we go back to what I just presented you, for me, when we look at micro, macro, and mega influencers, the only thing that we really take into account is the size of the network, right? We're distinguishing so-called influencers based on the reach they can have. How many people can they reach with their messages? With that, we have not really taken into account whether they have any particular expertise, and that gets us back to the funny definition that indeed questions these influencers that are talking about the avocado. Okay.
So we are getting a few answers
okay,
coming
very
in.
good.
Our viewers won't strike for a few minutes, but now they're back. So
yes, exactly, indeed. It's so indeed one of the, because I don't think you can see the answer. So one of you is saying
yes.
the problem with this, oh, let me see, I cannot go back.
No, you can't.
Now I can?
Yeah.
Thank you. So the problem with this categorization is indeed that it is quantitative, but there's no qualitative information about the influencer. That is exactly what I'm trying to say as well. It's too simplistic. Yes, the number of followers has changed. Yes, the issue is that it is an influencer has values and represents an image already. So choosing one or the other should fit with your company's culture. That is absolutely true. Indeed, yes, you need to choose. If you would choose influencers only on the size of their network, you're disregarding a big element of how influence really works in a marketplace based on what I just explained, let's say. So thank you for those answers, and I agree with all your remarks. So let's then, if we think about influence, let's use some marketing speak. And I repeat it here again, the terminologies that are used by Malcolm Gladwell, which is connectors, mavens, and salesmen. But if we translate it to marketing speak, what you're trying to say is, yes, maybe we need on the one hand, we could work with social influentials. So those are people that are actively engaged in a community or society, or maybe today we could simply say those are the ones that just have a big reach, okay? They have a lot of connections. Then you have the category influentials. So here we start to be getting more in the nitty gritty of stuff. These are the kinds of people that actually know something about food, for example, or about aerospace. And then there's also this third category, which we could relate to the salesman, as indicated by Malcolm Gladwell, which is the ones that really love your brand and can talk and advocate for your brand. So we have the social influentials, the category influentials, and the brand influentials. And where do you find these people? You do not find those people in the same places in the internet. So research by Forrester has indicated that online mavens, so the category influentials, those are the ones that they really spend a lot of time in the internet reading what people write about products, brands, and all this kind of stuff. They filter, store, and analyze this information, and then turn this back to the web. There is, well, you know, here you see a percentage of people that make up about 80% of influentials posts. So these type of people, we find them on blogs, on vlogs, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, and on all these review sites, right? Where people go because they have a particular expertise in the topic and they like to, you know, build a social presence around that. On the other hand, then we have the online connectors. So those are the ones that are not necessarily very knowledgeable about a lot, but they absorb potentially online mavens information and link and reference and forward this kind of knowledge. They act as the glue, let's say. So whereas you need mavens for the real beef, those are the ones that can help you create preference for your brands, because those would be considered trusted sources of information. The online connectors can get you eyeballs, right? They can help you to have a lot of people know about you, but they're not necessarily going to help you to convince consumers to go buy. If you see Kim Kardashian wearing or drinking a particular kind of water, I think most of us, okay, would not necessarily believe that she has authentically bought that water, and now we should all go and also buy this water, right? So of course you'll be aware of the brand, and that has a lot of merit. So there is the merit of having that first part, awareness. But if you really want to achieve full influence, you need another part of the picture. You need more elements to the equation if you want, and you need online mavens or category influentials that can explain the marketplace that your water, your brand, your product is indeed better for this and this and this reason. Okay, so if we then sum it up, let's say, we have these social influentials, the category influentials, and the brand influentials. You use them for different purposes. As I say, the connectors can get you eyeballs. So what they do is buzz. They create buzz, or they create transmission of your posts. Mavens, the category influentials, they have expertise and they can help consumers in the evaluation phase because they write reviews and ratings, for example, or they write vlogs, the unboxing videos that we would see. What they would do is they would give an analytical recommendation. It is better because of this, and it is what we typically also see with mavens is that they would highlight both the positive and the negative point of your product, making it more authentic and believable, to be fair. And then the salesman, that is a different type of influencer again, they just simply love you. So those are the ones that will advocate for you. And if they engage in word of mouth, or if they speak on your behalf as an influencer, they will give you that emotional recommendation. That is like what we said, the salesman that has something that makes you want to act on what they tell you. So what I'm trying to say here is that you need, if you really want to think about influence, you need to work on these 3 different levels. And typically it actually may mean that you need 3 different type of influencers. So the mega influencers would be the connectors, but the mega influencers typically are not the mavens nor the salesmen. I'm looking if there is questions. You have any questions for me? No. Okay, then let's continue. So I guess we see that a lot of companies now are coming to their senses and started to understand what I could have told them 10 years ago, and I did, but they should have taken my course before, is that working with these big Instagram influencers is not necessarily worth the cost, because they have turned into mass media channels like TV and radio. It's extremely costly to work with these big Instagram influencers, right? So we see more and more brands turning to work with these smaller influencers that could be still social influencers, but a lot of the smaller influencers typically also are the mavens or the category influencers. So the ones that can actually give you a recommendation that people will give some credibility to, okay? There's other brands that have taken another approach. They said, okay, all this big influencer marketing, it's just too costly. So let's just use influencers, but let's just avoid using actual consumers, and we create virtual influencers. So Essence is one of the brands. There's a good number of them these days that have actually created a bot, a virtual person, for whom they create all sorts of social media accounts, and then this virtual Instagram influencer is trying to exert influence. So do I think this is a good idea? I think you hear from a bit of skepticism that I had. I understand why brands do that, because this is marketers being in full control, right? Full control. Full control. So this girl you will not caught her using drugs because she is a bot. It's an imagination. However, if you do that, you completely disregard what word of mouth and influence truly is about. It is consumers that have no stake in telling other consumers what a product can really do for them. And what marketers are doing with these kind of things is completely undermining the power of social media. Because to be fair, a lot of consumers didn't really realize that this is a virtual bot. So, I have some doubts about it. I understand why marketers do it, but I believe, and take my course, and I will give you a lot of insight of how I believe you can really, and show you examples of companies who are using social media in a good way, in a valuable way for them as well as for their customers. So now, if you decide to work with influencers, then this is what you need to realize. If you cannot treat them as a channel, because they are professionals and they have stakes of their own. So, and their audience does so as well. So you need to navigate that. And how you do that? One of the research that I did in one of the earlier actually seeding campaigns where influencers were selected in the marketplace and given a free product with the idea then that they would be talking about it, we see this really. So influencers need to deal with the feeling that they're co-opted by the marketer, that they're selling out, right? And their audience also says that. So they have to protect their credibility. They have to convince their community that they're not giving out to the big bad marketers, right? And that is what you need to think about when you enter a relationship with these influencers. And this, I'm talking about the smaller influencers. I think the huge, big influencers, it's commercialism. It's nothing else. That is what it is. So it's a different, they have become a channel, right? But we're talking about the smaller ones, the ones that brands now are turning to again. So, for example, seeding change can change review behavior. Knowing that I need to write a review, I read more carefully. I pay more attention to my feelings. Even if I don't like the book, I will finish it. It's the least I can do if I'm offered a book. It's also the only way to talk about the book, right? So these people will actually take writing a review very seriously. You see, they have actually, not Kim, she doesn't really drink her water, but these smaller reviewers or influencers, they will actually do a good job to review your product. They do so to maintain their credibility. So in my campaign, in my research, I'm sorry, which dated 10 years ago, we had about 90 bloggers from North America that received a phone. They were asked to blog about it, but they were not told to what to say, right? It was really, okay, you know, we give you this phone and, you know, talk about it on your blog. And what we set out to research there is really how do these influencers perceive and deal with this marketer introduced word of mouth, let's say. And what we found is that there was 4 different narrative strategies that influencers engaged in. So we had the ones that were focused. If you here look on the vertical X, let's say, the ones that focused on themselves and the ones that in their blog, in their review, were focused on their audiences. And then here down, we had the ones that were focused on talking about the product, and because it was one of the earlier seeded campaigns, there were also a lot of bloggers that were actually focusing on the campaign. So that gave us the ones that were evaluating really the product with a focus on their audiences, a focus on the product, trying to provide its analytical recommendations. We had the ones that were more explaining, why do I participate in this campaign? And then we had the ones that were already, what we see today with a lot of our influencers, they're professional. There's a kind of an entitlement with an individualistic approach. And we saw that of all this, the ones that had a communal approach had much more influence than the ones that had an individualistic approach and that were talking about themselves rather than they were talking about the product. Today, I'm doing research on Instagram, so 10 years later, where for the moment we do not really have, I cannot tell you what the results are because we don't have them, but we're looking, let's say, at the same things. We have a lot of data working with Whaler, which is an influencer marketplace, let's say, a mediator between brands and influencers, where indeed we try to see, depending on the visuals and the text, what works best, right? Would posts work best that are focused on the influencer, focus on the brand? Would it be the influencer looks at the audience or not? Do they ignore them? Is it more stage or is it more slice of life? So if you participate in this course, I'm sure that I will be able to give you some insight in what the answer is to this research. And you see, it remains a very interesting topic where a lot of there's a lot of dynamics in this field because both marketers, influencers, but also audiences' reactions change to that. So to finish it off, if you think about working with influencers, which, for example, these smaller influencers, which typically tend to be category experts, you need to alleviate the tension that they are co-opted. They're not necessary. Here we're not necessarily talking about the brand influencers because they are with you, they're in love with you. But the ones that really have an expertise in a particular industry, domain, you need to make sure that this influencer is free to decide what to discuss and how to discuss it. So indeed, as you mentioned yourself in your questions, do not only just look at reach and also do not only look at image, but what you need to be looking at is what kind of relationship does the influencer have with his or her audience. The more communal, the better it is, because if they have a communal relationship, meaning that it is about we and not about me, which we see a lot in the Instagram posts these days, the message will be received better. And like that, what you can also think about when you see your influencers, think about what can you do so that his or her audience can benefit too from the fact that you are working with an influencer. Make, as I say, the collaboration also beneficial for the audience. For example, by allowing the influencer to give a code that allows their audiences to get a discount, something like that. You see, like this, the influencer maintains the influencer remains part of that community and can maintain that credibility, and not the idea of selling out. But when the influencer benefits from the relationship that they have with you as a brand, they can also make the audience benefit from that. Alors, so that was it for my part on influencer marketing. So I'm looking at a couple of questions before we end. We have 10 more minutes, so it's perfect. Are there industries where social influence matter? So I think what you mean, what you're asking is there industries where social influence does not matter? No, I think actually social influence matters everywhere, because even if you would think in a, it's typically kind of pushback that I may get from people working in a B2B sector, and they say, okay, you know, all this social media, this is only relevant if you are, you know, consumer market, not when you're in heavy industry. And it is not really true, because the people working in these companies are people, and professionals are using the internet, including social media, also in their professional life to make decisions about, for example, which products or which softwares or which services they should buy or consider for the company. So I believe that influence and social media in general can be relevant for most companies. Now, there is some companies or industries, if you think about, give an example here in France, we have a pretty big nuclear industry. Or if you're working for an industry where you're working with classified information, defense and stuff like this. So then you're not necessarily going to be using social media to communicate, but there will be still people that will, again, think about the nuclear industry, there's a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders that have something to say about it. If you as a company don't communicate on it, and that could be you could have good reasons for that, it may still be important to listen in what people are saying about it, and maybe potentially participate in some of these conversations to avoid bad buzz, or to be able to react to bad buzz in case you would be faced with it. For cars, beauty product influence, I think influencers can make an impact on any kind of product category, but it depends on what, if you do your work well, it depends on, have you selected these influencers correctly? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve big awareness? Okay, so you choose social connectors that through them you can reach a lot of people who maybe then become aware of your brand. If you want that people prefer your brand relative to another brand, you need other kinds of influencers, and you can have that with cars, and you can have that with beauty products, as with any other kind of category.
Someone is asking, what is more important, the influencer or the platform? Or both?
I guess it's the combination of it, right? With the platform, you tap into a particular kind of audience, because not everybody is active on every kind of platform. So you choose the platform depending on who you want to reach. The platform also brings with it what the influencer can do, right? although today you see that all platforms are converging to all sides of things, but there is platforms like LinkedIn where it is easier to have a larger amount of text. People go to LinkedIn and are willing to read larger articles. So if you have a complicated technical product for which an influencer needs to take a bit more time to explain, and if you have an audience that likes to consume information in written text, then LinkedIn could be a good platform for you to go to. And then you need to find influencers that are active and influential on the platform LinkedIn. If you want to reach millennials, then indeed, well, today we have TikTok, that is the new platform, right? So where there is a lot of video content that is ephemeral, this kind of stuff. So when you decide to engage in social media marketing, the first question you need to answer yourself, why do you want to do that? What is the purpose? What do you want? What business goal do you want to reach? When you know that, you think, who do I need to reach? And with those two questions answered, you start to have a good idea of the platform on which you should be active. And again, with that, there in the equation is also the influencer. So both are relevant.
Okay, well, I think we can continue to the next slide. Thank you
so
much for this presentation. That was absolutely amazing. And I really hope that you are all now wanting to know more. And hopefully you're going to join our masters to get the full, complete master's course and listen to the whole classes. So just a few basics on our masters for those who are thinking of applying. So what are the minimum criteria for our master in innovation and entrepreneurship? You have to hold 5 years minimum of professional experience, hold a bachelor degree, of course, be proficient in English. It's 100% in English, and of course already have or want to develop your entrepreneurial and innovation spirit.
One thing that is important, because I think there was a question related to that. So yes, you need to be proficient in English. However, when you have the fundamental phase, all the videos would be, they have subtitles. Okay, so that is important
That is true. Indeed, that is true. But then the exams do not have subtitles.
It's true, and indeed, you also need to be able to participate in webinars and this kind of thing.
And so interact also on the teamwork. But yeah, that it's a help, definitely.
It's
have the subtitles on the video. So also one important point is the average workload is 20 hours per week. Okay.
We're demanding for our students on campus as we are for our students online. So that is also the value of the degree is not different.
Exactly.
But the workload then isn't either.
Definitely. But then less traveling.
Yes,
so
no, indeed, you have all the benefits, as you say, anywhere, anytime, any device.
So the price of our masters is 20,000 euros with the possibility of paying in several installments. So maybe some of you don't have the profile yet or the funds for our masters. Then in this case, you can start the certificates in December and maybe later on progress to the masters. And you can also test for free and for almost free our masters with the MOOCs and the specializations. So everything, of course, is available on our partner Coursera's platform. So thank you so much, Kristine, for participating in this webinar. It was a pleasure sharing this moment with you. Thank you for all our viewers for your attention. And for all those who want to have, well, any questions, please feel free to contact me or Elizabeth, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Well, Kristine, have a great evening. Thank you for your time. Good luck for the webinar that's coming up with Cohort 4.
Indeed.
And looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.